Imagine stepping into a world filled with untamed wilderness, boundless opportunities, and the hope of a new beginning. This is the story of colonial America, a journey filled with ambition, courage, and conflict that laid the foundation for the United States of America. Stick around, because what you learn today might just blow your mind. Part 1. The First Colony. The year was 1607. 3 ships carrying 104 English settlers arrived in what is now Virginia, establishing Jamestown, the first permanent English settlement. But life was far from easy. Starvation, disease, and conflict with the Powhatan Confederacy pushed the colony to its breaking point. Nearly half of the settlers perished during the first winter. Survival hinged on resilience and adaptation. John Smith, one of the colony's leaders, famously implemented the policy, "He who will not work shall not eat." This fostered cooperation among the settlers, but true salvation came with the introduction of tobacco farming. John Rolfe's successful cultivation of tobacco turned Jamestown into an economic powerhouse. By 1619, Jamestown also saw the establishment of the House of Burgesses, the first representative assembly in the colonies. However, prosperity came at a significant cost. Relations with Native Americans soured, leading to violent confrontations known as the Powhatan Wars. These conflicts highlighted the deep cultural divides and the settlers' desire to dominate the land. Part 2, the New England colonies. In 1620, a group of religious separatists, known as the Pilgrims, sought freedom from persecution in England. They boarded the Mayflower and endured a treacherous voyage across the Atlantic, finally landing at Plymouth Rock. Their arrival marked the beginning of the New England colonies. Faced with a harsh winter and limited supplies, nearly half of the Pilgrims perished during their first year. Yet, through determination and aid from the Wampanoag tribe, they survived. The Pilgrims signed the Mayflower Compact, establishing one of the earliest examples of self-governance in America. This document set a precedent for democracy and community collaboration. As New England expanded, colonies like Massachusetts Bay flourished under Puritan ideals. Education and religion became central pillars of society. In 1636, Harvard College was founded to train ministers, and towns were established with strict moral codes. The rocky soil and cold climate shaped a subsistence farming economy, complemented by fishing, shipbuilding, and trade. A patchwork of colonies. By the late 1600s, 13 distinct colonies had formed along the Atlantic coast, each with unique characteristics and contributions to the emerging American identity. The colonies were grouped into 3 regions: New England, the Middle Colonies, and the Southern Colonies. The New England colonies were marked by tight-knit communities and an economy based on small-scale farming, fishing, and shipbuilding. Town meetings were a hallmark of their democratic spirit. The Middle Colonies became known as the breadbasket colonies for their abundant wheat and grain production. Pennsylvania, founded by William Penn as a haven for Quakers, exemplified religious tolerance and diversity. The Southern colonies relied heavily on agriculture, particularly tobacco, rice, and indigo. Plantations dominated the landscape, and enslaved Africans provided the labor that fueled this prosperity. Despite regional differences, the colonies were interconnected through trade and shared challenges. However, the reliance on slavery in the South would sow seeds of division that persisted long after independence. Part 4. Native American Relations. Colonial America's history is deeply intertwined with that of Native Americans. Initial encounters ranged from cooperative trade to devastating conflict. Tribes like the Wampanoag and Powhatan were instrumental in helping early settlers adapt to the New World, sharing agricultural techniques and resources. However, as colonial populations grew, competition for land and resources intensified. King Philip's War, 1675-76 in New England, was one of the bloodiest conflicts in colonial history, resulting in the near destruction of several native tribes. In the South, The Yamasee War, 1715 to 1717, reflected similar tensions between settlers and indigenous peoples. European diseases such as smallpox and measles devastated native populations, wiping out entire communities. By the mid-1700s, many tribes had been displaced, assimilated, or decimated. This tragic legacy underscores the cost of colonial expansion and the enduring resilience of Native American cultures. 5. The road to revolution. As the colonies thrived economically, their relationship with Britain grew increasingly strained. The French and Indian War, 1754 to 1763, left Britain in debt, prompting Parliament to impose taxes on the colonies. The Sugar Act, Stamp Act, and Townshend Acts angered colonists, who argued that they should not be taxed without representation in Parliament. Protests escalated, culminating in events like the Boston Massacre in 1770, where British soldiers killed 5 colonists during a confrontation. The Boston Tea Party in 1773 became a symbol of defiance, as patriots dumped British tea into Boston Harbor to protest the Tea Act. Britain's harsh response, the Intolerable Acts, only united the colonies further against their oppressor. Resistance was not limited to protests. Groups like the Sons of Liberty organized boycotts and spread revolutionary ideas. By 1774, representatives from the colonies convened the First Continental Congress, laying the groundwork for collective action against British rule. Part 6. Seeds of Independence. The path to independence was fraught with challenges. In 1775, the battles of Lexington and Concord marked the beginning of armed conflict between British troops and colonial militias. These skirmishes, immortalized as the "shot heard round the world," signaled that the colonies were ready to fight for their rights. The Second Continental Congress convened in 1776, and under the leadership of figures like John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, and Thomas Jefferson, the Declaration of Independence was drafted. This document boldly declared that all men are created equal and that the colonies had the right to self-governance. The war for independence had begun, and the ideals expressed in the Declaration would inspire future generations. The revolution was not merely a fight for freedom, but a vision of a nation built on principles of equality and justice. Part 7. The Revolutionary War begins. The Revolutionary War wasn't just a series of battles, it was a war for identity. Patriots from all walks of life joined the fight against British forces, forging bonds that would last long after the war. The conflict officially began in 1775 with the battles of Lexington and Concord. These early skirmishes set the tone for a grueling and unpredictable war. While the British boasted a professional army and superior resources, the colonists relied on guerrilla tactics and sheer determination. The leadership of George Washington was instrumental. Despite setbacks like the loss of New York City, victories at Trenton and Princeton boosted morale and proved the resilience of the Continental Army. Support also came from abroad. France, inspired by the colonies' fight for freedom, provided military aid, supplies, and troops. This international assistance turned the tide of the war, especially at the decisive Battle of Saratoga in 1777. The war wasn't confined to battlefields. It was fought in homes, churches, and fields. Civilians faced hardships as the war disrupted daily life. Women took on new roles, managing farms and businesses while supporting the war effort. Part 8. Turning Points and Triumphs. The Revolutionary War saw pivotal moments that defined the colonists' resolve. One such moment was the winter at Valley Forge in 1777 to 78. Under George Washington's leadership, the Continental Army endured freezing conditions, starvation, and disease. Despite these hardships, they emerged stronger, thanks in part to training by Baron von Steuben, a Prussian military officer. The final major battle took place in 1781 at Yorktown, Virginia. American and French forces, led by Washington and the Comte de Rochambeau, surrounded British General Cornwallis. After weeks of siege, Cornwallis surrendered, effectively ending major combat operations. This victory was not just a military triumph, but a testament to the colony's unity and resilience. The Treaty of Paris, signed in 1783, formally ended the war and recognized the United States as an independent nation. The Part 9, the aftermath of independence. With independence secured, the colonies faced the daunting task of building a nation. The Articles of Confederation served as the first governing framework, but it soon became clear that a stronger central government was needed. Economic challenges, interstate disputes, and foreign threats underscored the need for unity. In 1787, the Constitutional Convention convened in Philadelphia. Leaders like James Madison and Alexander Hamilton debated fiercely, crafting a constitution that balanced federal and state powers. The inclusion of the Bill of Rights ensured individual freedoms, addressing concerns of anti-federalists who feared centralized authority. The birth of the United States was not without challenges, but the ideals of liberty, equality, and justice became guiding principles for generations to come. Part 10, the legacy of colonial America. Colonial America's story is one of transformation, resilience, and vision. The struggles and triumphs of the colonies laid the foundation for the United States as we know it today. From the principles of self-governance to the pursuit of liberty, the legacy of this era continues to inspire. As we reflect on this journey, we see how the challenges faced by the early colonists shaped a nation committed to democracy and freedom. The spirit of colonial America lives on in the values we cherish and the progress we strive for. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey through history. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Together, let's continue exploring the past to understand the present. See you in the next video.